Hello, Dawn Butler here of Dinkydoodle Designs, and I have nabbed the Katy Sue Designs studio today to take you through this tutorial in how to make a super simple volcano cake. But you know me, it has a bit of a difference, so it really is quite explosive. It's a really simple cake. There's all sorts of bits and pieces to do with it. So we've got some airbrushing in there. I've also used the Flower Pro Nicholas Lodge fern mould. I absolutely love that one. And then show you how to airbrush up those dinosaurs. Let's get started. So this cake I've decided today, I'm going to use a bit of a dummy and a bit of cake, but actually it could all be cake if you wanted to. We're going to start with a board. So this is one of my plastic cake boards, so you don't need to cover them. This one is red, obviously, whether you can tell that, but I thought it was brilliant. It really kind of brings the cake to life. I do clear ones, white ones, black ones, there's all sorts, so you can have some real fun with these. What I love about them is that we can wipe it clean, we don't have to cover it with sugar paste, so they're really quick and simple to use, but obviously give best effect as well. So this one is a 12-inch round, and I'm going to pop on top of that an 8-inch round dummy. Now this is a standard height dummy, a straight edge dummy. This is 8 inches. You could go larger, you could go smaller, it doesn't matter at all. And because we've got dummy on the bottom, we don't need to tier this cake by putting dowels in or anything else. Now the cake then will go on the top. Ta-da! I've gone for Death by Chocolate here because it's a volcano, it's Earth. So I think a good chocolatey cake is the way to go. And of course the guys at Katy Sue didn't argue with me because it meant that they got all the offcuts. So they've been delving into amazing Death by Chocolate today. Now then, if this was cake, you would cut your cake, you would layer your cake, and then you would dowel your cake, because this is effectively a 2-tiered cake. You would then need something for the other cake to sit on. So here it's just one of my ganaching plates. I sell them in pairs actually, so that you can use it top and bottom to get a smooth finish. But actually it also works just leaving it alone on the bottom of the cake, like so. Now I've cut 2 6-inch round cakes, and then I've also got just a smaller piece really. I cut my cakes from a larger slab, so it could be another 6-inch round. But seeing as we're going to carve it, then actually it doesn't matter what this top shape is. Also, if you only want to do 2 layers of 6-inch, by the time you've carved it off, you could lump it on the top to make your volcano shape. So you don't need to do particularly any more baking than just that 2 6-inch rounds if you don't want to. Okay. Now, as with all Facebook filming, you think that you bring everything from the studio Nottingham, but then realise that you don't. I wouldn't normally be carving with a straight, sharp knife, but I forgot my serrated knife. And this was available in the Katy Sue kitchen. So that's what I'm going with. So we'll use it. Just going to remove my watch. Okay. So really simple, this one. So simple it's not true. What I'm going to do is place my hand on the top, and at a 45-degree angle I'm going to cut downwards, and I'm going to keep going round until I've made a mountain shape. Now the great thing about this is that it doesn't need to be neat, it doesn't need to be precise, it can take you all of 2 seconds. There really isn't anything that can go wrong with this. It's super quick and easy. So what you want to make sure of is that you've actually left alone that bottom layer of cake, so that I'm not going inside this 6-inch round base that's placed on there. So if I take that off, it's still the same size, it's still 6 inches at the bottom, but then I've carved upwards towards the shape at the top. So I'm going to sweep away this cake. Now, save this. We could be moulding more shape, more rock. It makes excellent cake pop mix when it's used with a ganache, and really great for moulding. So it doesn't need to go in the bin, apart from the fact that it tastes amazing as well. Great thing about these boards is that we can literally wipe them down. They do go in the dishwasher actually, and they are completely recyclable. So unlike quite a lot of plastic, these can go in the recycling. So if when your customer's finished with them, they're not going to give it you back, are they? So you could literally just tell them to use it, and they could be putting their own cheesecakes or their own desserts on there. But by the same token, if you using them at home, then at least I can make a cake, ganache a cake, and airbrush a cake, and then I can just wipe off the excess or any mess that I've made, which is perfect for that. Now, we usually, when I'm doing a demonstration, I don't fill my cakes, but the one that I've done on the volcano, I think it has to be filled. And I've gone with an orange buttercream. Now, this is actually a white filling cream. It's pre-made. I bought it from Sweet Success. It's made with a white fat rather than a butter. And it doesn't like being coloured with gel colours. I made this yesterday, and I don't think you can see from the camera. If you go up above, maybe you might see. But it's actually separated. Can you see that it's got a darker orange kind of fleck to it? So I mixed it up last night and put it in a piping bag. And now it's separated. But I actually think this is perfect for our lava, because what it does is gives us little bits, look, that are more runny than others. So it's kind of like a true lava. So really rather good fun. Now, I always fill my cakes after I've carved them. One, I think you end up with a whole heap of mess when you're trying to cut through cake and buttercream and everything slides all over the place. So I do find it easier, and also then I don't waste any buttercream. Now, when I put buttercream into a cake, I always do it in a piping bag because it allows me to get a nice, even coat. So I'm getting the same thickness all the way across that layer of cake. And it means that I don't go right out to the edge, because displacement will mean that that gets on top of there and splurges it out a little bit. So I don't get any of that going on. It's perfect when you're trying to do a naked cake. It makes it look really neat rather than you putting it on with a palette knife. There's nothing wrong with you then spreading it over with a palette knife if you needed to. But I think that kind of works really well. So we're now ready for some ganache. We've spent, what have we spent? Oh, crikey, like 10 minutes on camera, and we are already ready for covering it up with some ganache, which is pretty cool. So hand on the top and always go for the sides first. And we are literally just slapping it on. Now, you could do the orange buttercream as a crumb coat if you wanted to. I do like it to have some sort of firmness to it, and actually have the ability to set a little hard. And you know, also, if you wanted to, because it's a ganache and it's dark brown, you don't actually have to cover the cake with anything else at all if you don't want to. You could just leave it as a simple ganache or a chocolate buttercream. I'm putting plenty around the edges here, just to make sure that it's all nicely covered. Like so. Such a simple cake to make. In fact, the kids, you know, would like to make this. So if they're making, this is what they've requested for their birthday cake, you really can let them get hands-on and go for it. I have to say those moulds actually are so simple to use. Matthew, my youngest, who's just turned 12, bless him, he likes playing with the moulds and things that I bring home from here. And Katy Sue had given me some of the air dry clay. And Matthew's made a full set of the dinosaurs. He absolutely loves them. And anybody remembers, he'll remember that he got a dinosaur cake for his birthday, didn't he? So he's well into dinosaurs. So he absolutely loved those. And he was able to do those all on his own and really get quite nice detail out of it. I think the faces are gorgeous. So obviously we're going to be covering this with a chocolate paste anyway, so I don't really need to worry about how much I've covered. What I'm aiming for is that it's enough that it's stuck, basically. If your ganache is a little firmer, I always overmelt mine for camera because by the time I get to it, it's had a few minutes to set, and there's nothing worse than it not being able to use. But if it was firmer, you can make sure that you've really stuck everything in place by putting bits of it sort of attached to the board, as it were, to glue it down. I've never had a cake that is so simple to make. I think I might even let my husband loose on this one, you know. And he's got no creativity. Sorry, Paul. But he hasn't. He hasn't. Okay, I think we're almost done. If I just give that a bit of a swizz round there. We're all about covered. And then the last bit is a bit on the top. I love cakes that don't need any precision or measurements or anything fancy at all. Literally, away you go. Slap it on. So, I'm just going to give the board a bit of a white brown now, just before we put anything over the top. I'm using today some chocolate paste. So some people call this modelling chocolate, but it doesn't quite set as firm as that. But you do still need to microwave it before you use it. There's a little bit of white attached on there because it is quite firm. Obviously, it's going to taste amazing. And it's perfect for this. You could just get a brown sugar paste. You could use a gel colour. You could airbrush it straight from white. Now, I am going to airbrush on top of it, and I do that quite often. I might do the cake in the colour, the base colour that I want it to be, but then highlight or accentuate it with an airbrush. So that works quite well too. Just popping a bit of corn flour down, just in case. So I've heated this up for about sort of 40 seconds really, and it just makes it pliable enough, makes it easier. It's like trying to deal with marzipan when that's cold. It's just an absolute nightmare. In terms of how much I've got here, I must have about 1 kilo. I'm not going to need it all, but I do like to go larger and get more, because then it means that I just don't go too thin. This has got a really long shelf life on it, and it's not like when you've opened a sugar paste and you say, oh, I'll use the rest of that, but then it's gone hard. This literally, you could just leave it out on the side without even being covered, and the minute that you microwave it, it softens everything back up, so it doesn't crystallise in the same way that a sugar paste would. This one's, it's called Chocolate Silks from Sweet Success. And it's what I use all the time. They do a white one and a dark one. But Renshaw's have just brought out a chocolate paste as well. So I should be keen to give that one a whirl. Okay, so I think we've gone large enough. So I'm going to flip my rolling pin, or flip the chocolate paste over the rolling pin, bring back my cake, and over it goes. And we kind of generally hope that we've got enough to go around. Now you'll always notice that it always looks a little short. Don't worry about it. I'm also a little short, so I'm used to these kind of things. But can you see on the front that it is a little short there? Excuse me. So, can you see how I'm just gently pulling? And it's like I'm stroking a dog's ear. So I'm gently teasing it without yanking it. The last thing you want to do is tear anything. The great thing about this is that actually it very, very rarely tears. And if it does, you can just mould it back together. And we're building a volcano. So it's not going to matter if we've added something to it. It just won't matter at all. Gently shake as you go. You might find that you end up with some creases in it. Can you see here? And for once, that just doesn't matter. We can leave them in. That's why I was saying you just can't mess this cake up. You really can't. All you want to be conscious of is that does it reach the bottom, basically. And it does. So give it a quick squish in. Okay, so before we trim anything else, I need to make a hole in the centre. And I'm going to just do it with my knuckle first. Then I'm going to get a little knife. You're going to think that I've gone mad here, but I just want to dig out a little bit of that. And then actually all I need to do is just poke my knife in and turn it round. I don't need to take any more cake out. It's far too tempting to eat it. Just making a little hole in the centre. And give that a wipe. There we go. So I've now got an empty Smarties tube. It could be any tube particularly. What I want is something that's had food in it so that we know that it's okay to be in contact with food. And it's about that kind of height that I'm looking for. I managed to actually buy these and not eat the Smarties inside. I'm impressed. The guys in the office are less happy with me because they keep moaning that I don't eat any of this stuff that I bring in, then force it upon them. So I'm now just going to gently push down the Smartie tube inside the hole, and it should go all the way down, like so. So it's completely disappeared. You can see now that it is completely flush there with the surface. And I can actually just give the cake a little bit of a squeeze and bring it up if I need to, beyond the tube, like so. And then you won't be able to see any of that at all. Okay, so we're ready now with a Dresden, and we're just going to put a few marks in it, basically. You can use either the fatter end of the Dresden, or you can use the sharper end of the Dresden. You'll get a different look whenever you use a different end. So I'm going to go with the fatter end first, and just from the top downwards, do the odd sort of line coming down, and I'm creasing in to this sort of ring that I've put at the top, making it all a little bit misshapen and more rock shape. Okay, you can then accentuate any of the creases that you've got. So it might be that you come in round here, and then also I might want to dig into it. I'll do this front facing so that you can see. If I lean over, so I might want, can you see how I'm just digging in? I'm sorry I'm looking at the camera, but I'm using it to see what it is that I'm doing. So I'm going horizontally and then down, and you can start just then teasing with your thumb some real sort of rock shapes into it, like so. And then just basically make it not look like you've got a dummy with a lump of cake sat on it. We're going to start sort of bringing up some of these lines and accentuating them, literally just marking with the Dresden tool. It's almost like I'm playing, I always sort of class this as I'm playing the violin. So you don't dig into your cake, you leave it horizontal with the cake, and here's my violin, and I'm going backwards and forwards horizontally at different angles, and that's what happens. So it's what I call playing the violin. and you get nice marks across it without digging into it. And just make sure that you've marked all the way around. I might go in now with the smaller, finer end of that Dresden and put some deeper marks, some sort of sharper marks in there. Like I said, you could spend as little time on this as you wanted to. We now need to look really at whether we're going to take any of this other bit of chocolate paste off. So I'm going to take it out in parts. So I quite like that where it is, but I want to see some of this red board. There's no point having a nice red board if you can't see it. This bit hangs over the board, so we really ought to cut some of that off like that. That again is too big for the board, so that can come off. And then that bit can go around like that. Now, it looks like a cut edge at the moment, doesn't it? So if I just flatten the end down with my finger, there's a bit of ganache there, it can come off. And you can put a few marks in there as well if you want to. But I think you'd agree with me in the fact that already we've created something and it's almost finished. We could kind of leave it there. And we've spent 20 minutes. Yeah, we've been on air for 20 minutes. And we're already with something that looks pretty volcano-like. So that is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to put that to one side for a minute whilst I get out my airbrush. So we'll get all that set up. Okay, so we've got the compressor and the pens. I'm very greedy, aren't I? Look, the fact that I always have more than one. And some colours. And then always get yourself some kitchen paper, basically. You always want spare kitchen paper. Okay, so we're going to play Russian roulette today because I've not cleaned any of these airbrushes, so I don't even know whether they're going to work. But I thought if they didn't, you'd probably like to see what happens and how we get around it and fix them. So we'll have a look and see what we've got. So I've got air coming out of that one, and that one's filthy, look. It's already got disgusting colour in it, absolutely filthy. So that's a good place to start. So, to rinse this through, because I actually want to start with white, I'm going to put some water in it, and then I'm going to block the end of my airbrush with a piece of kitchen paper. And then when I pull back the trigger, can you see it's blowing bubbles in the cup? So what that's doing is not allowing the air to go anywhere else but back into the cup, and it flushes out the system. So we can see now that we've got a pot full of colour, and then I'm going to use a cleaning station. And all the cleaning station does is a glass jar with a filter and a lid to it. And I'm just putting it in there and pulling back the trigger, and it's emptying everything into the container, basically. So it's keeping it all inside there. And it just somewhere to put it. And then at the end of the day, when I've finished with it, I can just pop it into the dishwasher. So I'd empty the contents down the sink, stick it in the dishwasher, and I'm good to go. And it just stops it from going everywhere else, basically, which is ideal. So we're just rinsing that one through. We know that that one is now just about clean. And we'll have a look at the other two that we've got as well. So I'm getting bored now. Just spray out. So I do that a good couple of times. And that then should be enough. We'll see what's happening with this one. We're completely blocked. So again, we need to blow some bubbles and then spray through and spray out into there. Let's take a look at the third one. Ooh, almost clean, this one. I'll start with this as my whites then. I'm going to put white in the airbrush, so we'll leave that one for that. You can still see though, look, there's funny colours coming out of it, isn't there? So try and wash your airbrushes when you finish with them, folks. I never do. I'm my own worst enemy. Never clean them properly. But for me it's not an issue because I know how to take them apart, and it never really bothers me. But obviously it's the last thing you want to do when you come to doing your cake at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're really desperate to get to bed. You need to be able to hit the ground running with the airbrush and be able to clean it straight away or use it straight away. But because we're just using products that are food safe, particularly if they're water-based, we shouldn't really be needing anything else other than water to clean them. I might use a clear alcohol at the end of the day, once I just want to put it to bed. But if you don't want to waste your alcohol, vodka shots. Perfect. I'm kidding. Right, okay. So, because I've got 2 airbrushes on the go now, and I've got one that is cleaner than the other, it means that I can start with a darker colour first and then go back to a lighter colour, which is great. Usually you end up always starting with the lightest colour first, but of course I want to put a highlight in on that occasion, and it always seems to work better when you've, what am I up to now? It's not working at all, but we've just cleaned this one. So when something's not working at all, I'm just going to check the end of the needle here, make sure that it moves backwards and forwards, which it's doing. Try not to stab myself with it. Always check that you're getting bubbles, which I'm getting. So it just means it's blocked, that's all. There we go, look, we're good to go again. Okay, so let's move our cake in chart and get airbrushing. So, literally, actually, for those of you, let's move it that way, out of the way. For those of you that haven't really experienced airbrushing before, there's 2 variables that you need to get used to. One is how far away I am from my project. So am I close to my project or am I miles away? If I'm a good distance away, my spray is going to be nice and wide. If I'm close to my project, like so, then I can actually get a really fine line and draw with it. So what I need to work out is how far away I want to be from the project to get the right width of spray. The other thing that you need to look out for is how much I pull back this trigger. So if I pull back the trigger all the way, then basically I'm going to get a good strong colour. But if I try that when I'm close to my project, I actually just make an absolute mess, basically. So we need to find that variable. And what I always suggest to people is that they use a cheap children's colouring book. Because if you can learn to keep the page dry, then you're not giving it too much trigger. And if you can learn to colour within the lines, your hand-eye coordination and the distance that you are away for the right width of spray will also be spot on. Work your way through the colouring book, and then there's nothing that you can't achieve. So I'm going for about, what we are, almost sort of 10 centimetres away really. And I'm just going to very gently go over those lines that I've drawn into the cake with a Dresden tool, basically. Looking at where might be shadow. We can look at those highlighted bits later. You sort of start to create some real depth to it, really, really quickly. By adding a colour with the airbrush. Even though it's brown on top of brown, I think it still works really well. So this is Fractal Colours Dark Chocolate Brown. Fractal do 2 browns. I find that the brown is quite a tan colour, whereas the dark brown, dark chocolate brown, is a real good colour on top of this one. I'm next switching to a shimmer colour from Fractal, so that's one of the pearlized colours, and it's Sage Green. I love this colour, it's one of my favourites. I'm just going to give it a spray and make sure that I've got my colour. Now I've just put that straight into the empty airbrush that I had the brown in. So once that was empty, I can add whatever I like. And I'm not spraying all over. You see I'm almost like doing little circles or figure of eights. And it's just giving it, just lifting it really, stopping the cake from looking completely brown. It might be moss, it might be trees, it might be, I don't know, algae, mould, who knows. But it just stops things from looking so completely brown. Because of course we've got to now go creative with the dinosaurs, because what you can't do is now do them all in brown, otherwise you're not going to see them. So that'll about do us. So I'm now going to switch the airbrush out and go to white. Now if I'd only got one airbrush pen, then I would have to clean that out really well and then use white, or start with white. The trouble is I want it as a highlight. So I always blow my bubbles and check. So there we are, we're on the white. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this at the top. Now my spraying technique changes now. Can you see I'm spraying in sort of more short bursts? Because I just want little bits. You also find that the white is thicker than the normal water-based colours. It's not too thick, it's going to block your airbrush, but it's naturally thicker because it's opaque. So I find that my technique changes in order that I don't get any blockages. I do bursts of colour, so I'm pushing the needle through, then taking it out, the needle through, then taking it out, the needle through, then taking it out. And it just helps sort of get that colour through. So if you do ever have any trouble with a thicker colour of any brand, you know, some sort of golds and metallics are a bit thicker, you can let colours down really, really easily. You always have to let them down with the same ingredient that they're made from. That means if they're water-based, you let them down with water. If they're alcohol-based, you let them down with alcohol. If they're oil-based, you let them down with oil. So you never mix those elements. And put a few drops in, blow those bubbles just like I've done before, and let that colour down. But also, even if you don't let it down, just using those short bursts of colour with the trigger, you'll find has a really positive effect. Just a few more bits, I think. Of course, there's so many things that you could do to this cake, you know, to really kind of bring it to life, as it were. But I do think it doesn't want to be just that solid brown, basically. It wants a bit of life to it. In actual fact, when we're talking about bringing things to life, shall I share a little story with you? So, anybody that knows me knows that I can't just make a simple cake that takes 5 minutes. There has to be something about it that's different or special or unique or has that wow factor. So when the guys gave me the moulds and said, do something with that, I thought, well, we've got to do something a bit fun. So of course, volcano sprang to mind. Anyone that knows me then knows that we went overboard and I wanted to make a volcano cake that actually erupted. And I'd got in my head that we could quite happily make it explode with fire because I haven't really discussed it yet as to why we put the Smarty Tube in the middle. Well, we've put the Smarty Tube in the middle because I've got these candles. They're called ice fountains and they basically are a firework in a candle. So they come with a word of warning. 1, you need to be old enough to buy them because it's an explosive. 2, it needs adult supervision, please, to light them. And in a well-ventilated area, some restaurants you might find that you set the smoke detectors off. We've had to angle the cameras differently so that we don't get fire and all sorts going off. And there are, no, actually, I wish there were some really, really hunky firemen on standby. But I've got Ian, who's utterly gorgeous too. But he's on standby, bless him, with So we'll see how we get on. But basically, I'm going to pop the candle straight in the centre. And because we've used that Smarty tube, what we've actually done is completely immersed it and got rid of it. Now, the Smarty tube is bigger than the candle. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of support by rolling out a sausage of chocolate paste, and I'm just going to slip that round, push that in. You won't see that in a bit, but at least we know now that it's nice and straight. The last thing you want it to have done is tipped forward and set someone's face on fire. So I can't stress enough, folks, that you need to be careful when you do this. I can't even believe they've let me loose on it. But that wasn't the secret that I was going to share with you. The secret that I was going to share with you was the fact that we were going to make it properly explode. It was going to ooze lava, which I thought would be pretty cool fun. I'd busily prepared a handout for you all to tell you the right measurements, and I'd worked out everything to the letter as to basically a structure inside this cake that when you went to put the cake down on the table, it forced all of this lovely, what would I used? I'd used like an orange marmalade, but I'd sort of really kind of made it really orange. So that was going to ooze out over the sides. Now it's a one-shot deal. So it's full and it's there. Once the cake is then finished, you then can put it down and everything will dribble out and ooze out. You can't kind of redo it again. So I was busy testing it beforehand. Now I didn't get a video of this, but the guys here have got a photograph of my ceiling. Because when I went to put the cake down on the table, I thought, oh, it's a bit stiff, doesn't really work very well. Then I went for it and it shot out. I don't know whether anyone knows, but I have a brand new house with a brand new kitchen where everything is brand new. My white ceilings, my walls, my kitchen, my floor, my table, me were absolutely covered in this bright orange apricot jam. It was not a pretty sight. So if Ian can find the photograph later, we'll put that up and post it and share with you what happened. I felt it perhaps wasn't a good idea to get the cameras completely covered in apricot jam. So maybe one day I will share with you how to make your cakes truly explode. But for now, we will go with setting this on fire later. And I think you'll agree when we do it, it does look absolutely fabulous. But it's far less effort and far less mess. Okay, so we've now created our cake. That can go to one side. I will just give the board a quick wipe, just to show you how easy it is to just get rid of that airbrushed mess. Look at that, super easy. If only colour would come off my hands as easy as this, eh? But yeah, wipe it round. And then you are all good to go. Okay, so we can put that to one side for a minute or two. Because what I want to show you now is these little babies. How cute are these? I love them. I love the fact that they're just so full of character. And I really love the fact that the legs are separate, or the tail is separate. The extra horn and legs are separate on this one. So they appear to be 3D. And whilst they're not 3D, they've got a flat back surface, which means you can easily put them onto a cake. The fact that they've got those other little elements kind of really brings it to life. They are very clever moulds. Well done, Katy Sue. I love them to bits. So I shall get my corn flour out again, just in case. And I've just got some ordinary sugar paste here. It's not got anything else added to it at all. Try not to rustle too much. And we'll go with this guy. I think he's my fave. He's my favourite. So dust in with corn flour. Make sure you tap all of that out. Knead your sugar paste. And then I spread it with my fingers so that in case there's not enough to fill it, I've at least gone all the way over that surface and it means that I've not got any joins on the outside. Now look at the state of mine. Can you see the state of this mould now? Because I've got filthy fingers. So ideally, I would have washed my hands, made sure that they were nice and clean. But we are going to airbrush the mould, so it doesn't matter too much. So the face is quite deep. Make sure, look, you give it a good old poke around with a Dresden. And get into all those bits. And then once I'm there, look, but can you see how I've come short of those finer details? Because I can then just push them towards with a Dresden. Use the flat side of the Dresden just to smooth anything off that we need to. What we need to make sure of is that we've just got no excess really. So I'm now making my way further down the mould really and just pushing this outwards down towards the bottom because there's loads and loads of excess here, look. So pretty much all of that can come off. Of course, when you cornflour a mould well, it wants to tend to come straight out instead of stay put when you're doing stuff. I talk about me and my filthy fingers, but getting them clean is very, very easy actually. I use a stain remover that's meant for the washing machine. So any Oxy Action stain remover. Pop a scoop of that into warm water in the sink and then pop another scoop in your hands to rub it round, and within seconds that'll be nice and clean. And I'm sure there are many of my students out there who can now vouch and comment on this to say, yeah, she's right, I've used it in class. So I'm going with his body first. And what you now want to do is, can you see if you just literally keep popping it, so from the bottom, giving it a good push, making sure that it's released in all those different areas. And then he should start to just fall out onto the table. There he is. How cute is he? How cute is he? I love him. I love him, I love him, I love him. You can't see from here the detail in this picture, but honestly, the little teeth, the lip, the nostril, the horn, the eyes, the little lumpy spots, and the detail on his skin is just gorgeous. Absolutely love him. So let's do his little legs. What I love about the Katy Sue moulds is that whilst I know folks sort of put them in the freezer or put moulds in the freezer when they're struggling to get things out, there's no need with these. They really, really are very, very good. So again, look, the back of that Dresden tool just helps smooth those off. And again, look, a little push. This one is nice and deep, this one. So a really good kind of wiggle, and we should just be able, there we are, to lift out the other foot, like so. Now I'm going to leave those separate until I airbrush him. I wouldn't put him all together, but effectively that little leg goes on here. Look, you see now how he becomes so much more 3D because he's sort of stood, and he's not stood side on. He's kind of stood sort of half side on, like that, instead of like that. He's like that. But it does give a really, really good impression that he is 3D, so that is fab. Now, I know that good old Chef Nick has got some amazing tutorials on all of these. And anyone, like I said, that knows me knows that I don't do flowers. I don't do flowers and I don't do ferns, but on this range makes me look good. So I love him for that. Thank you, Nick. And this fern one is so simple. I roll like a little bit of a cone shaped, really. I need to just make sure I've put some corn flour on there. So yeah, roll a little bit of a cone shape, and then I'm just going to push it flat into the mould, making sure that it's not going over any of those edges. Now we're not doing real sort of botanical stuff here. We don't need it to be as thin at the front or the back or whatever. We're just getting that general shape really, and it's about adding colour and texture and livening up our volcano. But again, give that a little look. It just literally pops straight out, and such detail on those ferns. Absolutely amazing. Love them, love them, love them. Okay, so that's how we actually use the moulds. So let's take a look at airbrushing some of those up. Put those to one side. Clean those up. Now then. Sorry, I know I keep disappearing. Oh, okay. So I've got quite a few things here, and I'm going to put them on blue so that you can see at home what it is that we are up to. So can you see that now? There we go. I need to bring the leg in as well as, because we want to make sure. Let's do those. That one as well. I want to make sure that you can actually see it, and I want to make sure that I've got everything on hand to spray the same colour. So let's take a look. I need to probably just get rid of this white that's in here. So again, whilst you probably want to do dinosaurs in all those browns and greens and natural kind of colours that we think of, what I want to do is really make this cake more colourful. So I want to be able to make sure that we've, cleaning it out, that we've really thought about aesthetically what's going to look like. So we might not have orange dinosaurs in the real world, but why not? Why not? So I've got some yellow and I've got some red here, and I'm going to mix up some orange. So always when you're mixing, start with your lightest colour first, basically. We might give this little fella a yellow tummy actually. So whilst I've just got yellow in, let's do that. And there's a little bit of a trick to making sure that you don't get colour absolutely everywhere. So I either tear a piece of kitchen paper or I take an acetate smoother, basically, and we're going to use it to block off certain areas. So let's take a look at just his tummy for now. If I place a piece of kitchen paper just here, I can actually start airbrushing up just the bits that I want and not getting any colour. And we can do the same with a piece of acetate smoother. So bear with me, I might need to turn it around so that I can see what it is that I'm up to. But by holding the acetate smoother, and what I'm going to aim at is the acetate smoother. Now I don't know whether you can see that from there. Ian, just flick up to front camera for me. Thank you. Technology is brilliant, isn't it? This is what I'm actually doing, side on. So can you see, there's my acetate smoother. His tummy is here, there look, but I'm actually aiming here. And what happens is, it means that I won't get anything else. I'll spray this, but overspray will get onto the tummy. So that's what's going on. Sorry, you wouldn't have appreciated the angle that I was going at. So very, very gently. And then look, I want to spray this bit of his tummy, so I block off the legs. And then we can just spray his little tummy yellow, and then nothing else. Now that I'm happy that we've done that, I might give him a bit more of an underbelly there in yellow, so that's fine. And I might just go. Now that's aim for you. You see how we've left the teeth white. You just can't see in detail here what we're up to, but I've airbrushed and then left his little teeth white. So to mix up some orange, I've still got half a cup of yellow. I'm just going to put 1 drop of the red in. That's all it literally needs. I'm going to blow back those bubbles, look, and that should get us a nice orange. So there we go. Now what I'm going to want to do is block off his tummy and then spray everything else in orange. And if you just do everything nice and slowly, there is no rush. Airbrushing happens quick enough as it is. I've forgotten about his little horns, so we'll keep his horns white as well, look. So pop that there. You see how close I am now? So I'm not very far away at all, am I? I'm not scribbling on the cake. Now then, I'm just going to cover up his teeth and spray around them for now. And what I need to do is cover up the eyes. And what I do, a cotton bud is great for this. If you just popped a cotton bud over, or if I take a piece of kitchen paper, wrap it around my finger and put that there, that is enough to protect the eyes. And then likewise, just pop a piece of kitchen paper around the horn. And I need to cover up that tummy, don't I? Whilst I just do his little hands and his little feet. Well, how quickly was that done? So he's got cute little white horns, look, cute little white teeth still. We could have masked off where his little feet claws are, so I'll do that one on this one, look. If I literally just put a piece of kitchen paper over his little claws, and it doesn't need to do them individually, just a straight line is fine. But look at the difference, look. Can you now see that we've got cute, 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 cute little claws. Just cover it up like so. There we are. Don't forget to do the underside of this one. Like so. Yeah, the underside of the foot, just to help that one stick there as well. But you can, yeah, start to do those in any kind of colours. I'm just going to get rid of this orange. In fact, whilst I've got orange in, I might do a leaf. Let's move that to one side. I know you're going to say, leaves aren't orange. But if I now add a drop of leaf green, let's see whether it goes too dark or not. I often find that the leaf green is too bright as it is, so I often use yellow with a drop of leaf green in it, and it just makes a nicer, fresher green. Oh, we've got a khaki green. How's about that? That's quite good, actually. I like that. There's two here that I've already sprayed with green, so we could now go back over and do some kind of shading. You might want to go up the middle. You see how close I am and how gentle I'm being. So the air will always take your things away. Just go straight up the middle. I could go up the centre of those little leaves and just give that an extra bit of shading. Like so. Or we could do a whole fern in that khaki green. That's lovely. And then don't forget to get the sides. Now you wonder why my fingers always go green, because I hold everything when I'm airbrushing it. Now you should, people always say to me, how long do you wait for airbrushing to dry? Well, I've just airbrushed that with a water-based colour and it's dry. It should always be dry. You should airbrush dry. I really like this khaki green. So that was my yellow with 1 drop of red in it to make my orange. And then I added 1 drop of leaf green to get this really, really nice kind of khaki. I love that. It's very fern-like. Very good. Last one. Okay, we can get rid of this colour now, and I'm just going to add some ivy green. I can find it. There it is. This is one of my favourite colours. It would be too dark for us to just use straight away though. So it really does need to be kind of like an accent colour. So again, I'm going to hold it in my hand because it's easier to turn. But I'm concentrating on spraying my fingers, not spraying the fern, and then you'll get just the edges. You see what a difference that makes and how quickly it comes together as well. Really, really, really love these moulds. Well done, Nick. You're an absolute star. You've made my life so, so easy. There's something about that Pro Flower range. I just love the fact that it just brings everybody, you know, onto the same playing field, being able to achieve the most amazing things. Because seriously, without it, I just couldn't. And I don't have the patience either. I want something that's really quick, dead easy to use. I mean, like those little dinosaur moulds, how easy and quick was that? You've done it in kind of seconds. You could even get, like I said, I'd be getting Matthew to pop those out for me. He's had fun airbrushing them actually. He's done a really good job. So he's been doing all sorts of things. You could be adding some brown to that. So these that were already that bright green, they look a little brown with that khaki on there. So we could have added the brown. I would have gone with the brown, not the dark chocolate brown as well on that, by the way. I wouldn't have gone too dark. Because before you know it, you're putting it against a mountain and it doesn't look sort of like anything special, as it were. I'm just going to now get rid of this and just pop another colour in there. And we'll put some red in and we'll do in some spots. And then we're ready to stick it all together. So, I had the red out, didn't I? Here we go. I'm going to give it a tiny little rinse because we've had that funny khaki in there. It'll affect the red, it'll make it a dirty brown. Not a nice, neat red. So get rid of that. Talk amongst yourselves. Come on. I'm bored now. Okay. There we go. We've got a red. Right. Kitchen paper is a great way to practice. Let's move these to one side. Great way to practice. I don't know if they've ever noticed, but there's patterns on a piece of kitchen paper. You can't really see them from there. But this one, for instance, has dots in a ring. And it's a brilliant way of just gaining control of your airbrush, making sure that you're not putting too much power on or too much pressure on, and that you've got full control over your airbrush and what it is that you're doing and where it is that you're pointing, that you can basically do anything. So if you're struggling or unsure of what it is that you'd want to do, then always get out a piece of kitchen paper. Okay, so I don't know whether you can see from here, but there's these little raised lumps and spots. They're absolutely gorgeous, and for me they need to be in red. So we're just airbrushing those up really quickly, and the little spines, little spikes on his little spine. Now these two horns I've ended up doing a bit orange, so they might as well go in that kind of colour there. Give them a bit of shading. around his tummy. And I'm going freehand. You could mask that off, couldn't you? So don't worry if you can't do it. I would then use some edible glue, and we can just pop those on there. Oh, it's because it's not stuck, Dawn. It's not going to stay. I just spotted that I've not actually finished airbrushing the side of there, and then on that goes as well. Look like that. How cute is he? I love him. I love him, love him, love him. Give him a little bit of shading underneath his chin. For me, what else he needs is an edible pen, just for his eyes. So let me find what I've got in my box of tricks down here. Make sure that I've got one that works. Depends on where you want him to look as well. But I'm just going with a little bit at the bottom, like so. And like so. So just putting his little eyes in and kind of bringing that to life. You can, if you want to, just go underneath the top lip, and it just draws your attention to that beautiful shading. And just the fact that it's 3D and the shape's there, so it just kind of brings his mouth to life a little better as well. What I love about these things, I haven't got the other arm on there or anything else, but look at that. How gorgeous is that going to be when that sticks on the front? Look, it just instantly brings it to life. I've not put any wire in any of these things at all. So I would literally just, well, you look at those colours against the brown. It's absolutely stunning. So just a bit of edible glue and press those in place. The last thing I want to show you on this one is, if it's still melted, and it is, I've just now got green fingers. I've got green food colouring all over it. Is some melted chocolate. Now this actually comes from a company in Australia, and it's called Chocolate Drip. So it comes in a really handy canister, which is dead useful, but not useful when I'm filming because it's now been for an hour, and it would have then just set solid again. You'd simply microwave it. So what I did was decant some of it into a piping bag, and I do this all the time when I'm traveling. So you know, when I need to go to a venue and then put finishing touches on it, I will put ganache in one of these and I put chocolate in one of these. Let it go hard, it's fine, because all you need to do is ask the venue for a mug of hot water, which they can provide you. So some don't have a microwave, you can't reheat things in other ways. Ask for a mug of boiling hot water, and that's been sat in there and I'm still ready to go in an hour's time. So really, really useful when you're on the go and trying to do stuff. So all I'm going to do now is snip the end off with a pair of scissors. Move that forward and make sure that we can all see. And then literally squeeze it. I can now cover up, look, that circle of the chocolate paste that we've done to secure it being in place. And just have some fun. Make sure that you don't cover the top of the candle, basically, and use as much or as little of that as you like. How easy was that? Okay, let's get rid of just these few final things. And the only thing that I'm looking for is the box of matches that I had, because I might have put them somewhere and I don't know where. So let's see if we can find them. They are in the studio somewhere. Let's have a look. Can you hear that there's a door opened at the back for me? Is it on that table, Ian? Oh, well done, Ian. Well done. Come on in. Bless it. Look, he's silent hands, stage hands. But don't use a lighter for this, folks. The reason being is that I just think that your hand's too close. So use a good set of matches that are long. Proper chef's matches, basically. Let's put that to one side. Now, have you all got your fingers crossed for me? have you got your fingers crossed that this is hopefully going to work? So, yeah, look at how long these matches are. Can you see? It's a good kind of length. And then light it and stand well back. But I can guarantee you that anybody that then sees this, it's so simple, but so effective. Not a lot of effort has gone into it. Watch it not light first time. Is it going to go? Is it going to go? Ta-da! It's even smoking at the end. I don't think you can see that on the camera, but that is fab. So, how simple, how easy, but how effective was that? A great tasting volcano cake that's gonna absolutely wow anyone that receives it, with the most cutest dinosaur moulds as well. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope again to be back soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.